Got it?
I think so.
Okay. He's showing who's here. 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6. Okay. You ready?
Oh no, I'm supposed to like say hey.
Okay. You ready? Okay. Today is Wednesday, April the 5th. My name is Kelly Morrison, and this is my persuasive speech. Today I want to talk to you about drug addiction. I'm going to explain to you why addiction is a brain disease and not a moral failure like most of our society thinks of it as. My husband is a recovering addict. His name is Michael. He's filming today. He has been in recovery for almost 6 years now, but he was a cocaine addict for 5 years of his life. This picture right here is a picture of him 1 month before he almost died and went into rehab. I have to wonder many times, did he suffer in silence for as long as he did because he was afraid of the stigma that's attached to drug addiction. There are many words that we use when speaking of an addict. People call them junkies, they call them trash, scum, cokeheads, many words that you can think of, when actually the words that describe this man are Christian, father, husband, son, and brother. So that's really the way that he is known, especially to me. This is my husband now and our little boy, 2 little boys, this past Christmas. I have to know that had I not given up on him, we may not have made it to this point in his recovery, and I'm incredibly proud that we are here now. This is a friend of mine, Bradley Saxon. On the left-hand side here is when he was in the depths of addiction, and this on the right-hand side is a recent picture of him. He's a pastor, he's a father, he's a brother, son. He's a wonderful man who has been sober for about 11 years now, and this is a picture of his family, Christy, and his son, Bri, and we have to know that had she given up on him, they wouldn't be at this point in their life either. So I wonder, we may talk about who in the room has been personally affected by addiction. Do you yourself suffer from addiction? Have you known someone in the past who has suffered from addiction who may or may not be better now, who may be struggling? And what would you want that person to be called? Would you want someone to call your mom trash? Would you want them to call your brother scum? Or would you want them to be known by words that they are known to you as and the person that they truly are? So today we're going to talk about what a disease is and why addiction is a brain disease and how the medical world is changing and how they treat and cover addiction. So first we'll just talk about what a disease is. Webster's dictionary describes it as an illness that affects a person, animal, or plant, a condition that prevents a body or mind from working normally, a problem that they cannot stop. The main portion of that definition that stuck out to me was that they cannot stop. If it was something that they knew that they could do and take care of, they would put an end to it with no problem. Dr. Rebecca Norris is a local physician, and she described a disease as a disorder of structure or function in a human, animal, or plant, especially one that produces specific signs or symptoms at a specific location. So next I want to talk to you about why I feel that addiction is a disease. It's a brain disease, and in the book Memoirs of an Addictive Brain, there's a neuroscientist named Mark Lewis who helped me learn that drugs cause elevated dopamine levels in the brain, and they also cause dysfunction in the neurotransmitters of the brain. I had thought about this before, but not in the detail that I learned it there. We have in the brain 4 neurotransmitters: dopamine, norepinephrine, acetylcholine, and serotonin. Dopamine fuels wanting and doing. Serotonin is the soothing part of the brain. Norepinephrine works with alertness, arousal, and attention to detail. And acetylcholine energizes all of your mental operation. Drug abuse causes these neurotransmitters to misfire. It narrows the synaptic traffic until there is less and less of a choice for the person to use drugs. Again, Mark Lewis describes it as ruts in the garden where rainwater flows. If you think about drainage in your yard and water flowing in a specific direction, the water is going to hit that direction and flow that way every time because that's the path of least resistance for it, okay? Another portion of the brain is called the dorsal anterior cingulate cortex, the DACC, and it's in charge of choice, self-monitoring, desire to resolve conflict. And with time, drug use over time, the DACC weakens. It's like a muscle that needs to be reconditioned to become stronger. It needs to be used over and over again for our brain to form those new pathways. A local therapist, her name is Twala Andrino, she talked about it like using a machete. when you're walking through a field, if there's a path that's already cleared, you're going to take that path. But you have to use that machete to chop those new pathways in the brain. And the more you chop, the clearer that pathway is going to become, and it's going to be easier for your brain to take that pathway. So it is drug addiction is also a chronic disorder that if left untreated will lead to death, just like diabetes, heart disease, or cancer. In the drug abuse source book, I found that in 2012, there were 22.5 million Americans over the age of 12 who suffered from drug addiction. That's 8.7% of our population. And if you compare that to 29 million people who have diabetes, that's 9.3% of the population. That's a pretty big comparison. We don't say that person who's diabetic or has heart disease that they have those disorders because they're fat or because of the food that they ate, or he wouldn't have died had he just not eaten that pizza. We don't do that, but we do that with drug addiction. So finally, I just want to talk to you about how the medical world is changing when it comes to treating addiction. Patrick J. Kennedy, he wrote a book called A Common Struggle. He was a previous member of the U.S. House of Representatives and a previous addict himself. And he helped to get the Mental Health Parity and Addiction Equity Act passed. This act requires that substance abuse and mental health disorders are covered at the same percentage as diabetes and heart disease. Previously, a company may even decide not to cover mental illness or addiction. Now they're required to cover it at the same level as they would diabetes or heart disease, which is wonderful. It's really helped progress the treatment of addiction. So I hope that you leave here today feeling different about drug addiction. I hope you understand what a disease is, how addiction is a brain disease, and how the medical world has changed how addiction is treated. I just want you really to think twice about choosing your words when you go to describe somebody who's an addict. It's not who they are, it's merely a symptom of the disease that they suffer from. Replace the words that you used to use, like junkie, trash, pillhead, loser, with father, son, brother, and friend. Maybe then you'll be able to see these people for who they are and not from what they are suffering from. There are two last photos I want to show you. This is Bradley again. He has started a facility called The Bridge. It's a treatment center for men for addiction. And had he not had these resources and these people available to him, he wouldn't be able to start it. And then again, my husband and myself, with our commitment to support this center in whatever ways we can, so that we as family, as the world, can start taking back the lives of our family members that we've lost and have been stolen by addiction.